Hello, everyone, and welcome to our podcast. I'm Danny, and today, Break.com talks with Amy Gray, the Senior Climate Finance Strategist at stand.earth. If you haven't heard of it, stand.earth's mission is to challenge corporations and governments to treat people and the environment with respect. Before we begin, remember if you're new here to this podcast, press subscribe on YouTube or in your podcast app. Hi, Amy, and welcome.
Hi, thanks for having me. Excited to be here.
Well, it's my pleasure. I'm excited to talk to you too. Let's begin by knowing more about the story of stand.earth. How it all began, and I believe that you have been shifting as times have shifted. So how it all happened.
Yeah. Well, I've only been with Stand for 2 years, but I love it at Stand. And Stand used to be forest ethics, and then kind of shifted over to Stand. But it started, way back when on Vancouver Island, in collaboration with First Nations. And Stand started investigating companies, exposing their connection to environmental destruction, things that were putting lives and folks and everybody at risk. And we built power through a global network of partners. We collaborated with decision makers, and we've stopped bulldozers. We've reached agreements. We've kept old growth forests intact. We challenge big corporations to do the right thing and to treat our planet with the respect that it deserves. So this has been going on for 20 years. And for the last 2 years that I've been here, I've been lucky enough to be a part of this team. And my work is within stand.earth. And I coordinate and support what's called the Climate Safe Pensions Network, with capacity, resources, training, and strategy. So we're known for our groundbreaking research and successful corporate and citizen engagement campaigns, to create new policies and industry standards in protecting forests, advocating for the rights of people, and protecting our climate. So CSPN, as we call it for short, Climate Safe Pensions Network, is a distributed network of organizers all across Turtle Island, who are working to divest their pension funds from fossil fuels. There are small grassroots groups to large organizations and coalitions. It's a really powerful movement that I'm lucky enough to be a part of. Climate finance sounds niched and it sounds very dry and very boring, but it's not. Not only do we do pensions, but we challenge big banks. Currently, we're running campaigns on the Royal Bank of Canada, RBC, for their funding of fossil fuels. They are the largest funder of fossil fuels in North America, and Citibank is our other campaign. So we challenge these big banks to respect indigenous sovereignty, to stop ramming pipelines through watersheds, to stop funding the fossil fuel infrastructure that is driving the climate crisis.
Wow, this is really powerful, honestly. And I think that speaks a lot for one thing that I was talking to you before we begin actually recording. That is, I think most of us somehow are concerned about the impacts that we can actually create when talking about environmental issues. How little is the individual impact, how the organizations can actually make something change. And for what you just said to us, I think this is a really good testament of how powerful it can be. So what exactly is the overall approach that Stan has to addressing those issues?
Yeah. I mean, and it starts, of course, with us, and we all recycle. We all try to not drive as much, or, electric cars. These things are personal impacts, of course, always make a difference. But research has shown that, there are a good deal of corporations who are completely responsible for the climate crisis. And what we do in my department is we look at the money behind those projects and behind the banks and the corporations. So, banks, insurance companies, and institutional investors like pension funds, these are the great enablers of climate change. By financing fossil fuel companies, they enable these companies to continue to produce and burn more fossil fuels, driving up global greenhouse gas emissions, at the time when we need to be doing the exact opposite. We have to be urgently and rapidly decreasing our emissions, and without financing, these companies would not be able to continue to pollute to the degree that they do, or have the political influence that they continue to wield, from being direct investors in these companies to providing like cash loans, credit facilities, and insurance. These institutions they enable fossil fuel companies to expand fossil fuel use. So this is where we come in. Our approach is to stop that. I say this all the time when people ask me, like, why do you do climate finance? Like, why do you do this? I'm like, nothing brings me more joy than taking money from the fossil fuel industry, because they have destroyed our planet to the point where we are experiencing disasters at a rate that are absolutely atrocious, like the wildfires that are going on in Canada right now, that are the effects of which are being felt globally. So that's how we approach it, is to work on getting the money out of fossil fuels and into just and equitable climate solutions.
Yeah, well, as a Brazilian, I completely agree with you. It's just crazy. Honestly, it's just crazy sometimes. But one thing that I really need to ask is that we're talking now about the issues or the threat that fossil fuels pose to the environment and the effects. But there are also like major issues that we clearly see happening. Again, in Brazil, we are experiencing a moment where indigenous people are trying to fight for their land, and that has an environmental effect, obviously. What other issues is Stand trying to cover or to help out at least?
Oh, wow. We have so many campaigns, and there are so many amazing folks working on these. One of my favorite campaigns that we have is ending financing for oil in the Amazon. We have an Amazon team that are based in that area, that are based globally. The Amazon is one of the last places on the planet that the oil industry and industrial extraction should be expanding. So then, like, that one to me it is an amazing campaign that we have so many great folks working on. We're also part of the Fossil Fuel Non-Proliferation Treaty, which is a big initiative, spurring international cooperation to end the fossil fuel era. We have Restoring Climate Leadership in Canada and the US, Safe Cities, which works with cities and states to, decarbonize and to, electrify, like all the things that you need to get off of fossil fuels. We have anti-fracking, zero emissions, zero shipping. Like, we go after, so many different sectors, but all of these sectors, combined, fueled by the fossil fuel industry, are, contributing to climate change. We also address deforestation. And we recently, just this week, launched a campaign on Cargill. Cargill is a big agribusiness, and they are responsible for some pretty serious human rights abuses in the food distribution sector, and farming, things like that. So, we go after what our campaigners are passionate about, and what we know to be true is that we have to ramp these things down, and we have to transition to a just and equitable way of living on this planet, living in relationship with the land and not extracting from it.
Absolutely. And for everybody listening, if you want to know more about this project that Amy just told us about, and about more of the things that Stand does, please go to their website. You can find it on the description of this episode, but it's stand.earth. Simple as that. Just go for it. And the website is beautiful. Just
Follow
go
us
check it
on
out.
social media.
Yes, absolutely. That's the best way to get informed, honestly. And one thing and this is just truly my curiosity now speaking, is for the things that you just told us, I see this huge effort of intersectionality, right? You were talking about partnerships from the beginning with indigenous people and how we can actually get to society to do things. Could you tell me more about your experiences with these partnerships, with this intersectionality, so we can understand how important these things are?
That is the absolute, that's the floor, like, these relationships, like, that's the first thing that needs to happen is, indigenous sovereignty is not just a buzzword. It's not just a hashtag. These are the original inhabitants of the land, the people that take care of our land, that, before colonization, and the ongoing colonization that still, and genocides that still happen across the globe. And having, it's not about like big NGOs, they love to, jump in somewhere and work on a campaign and do all the things. And so often they forget to consult the frontline communities. They forget to consult the people who are being affected by these projects. And that's one of our core values at Stand, is that we work, not with them, but for them. Like we are here to support you and your local fight. Like specifically right now, we're supporting the Wet'suwet'en up in their territory in so-called British Columbia. The Coastal GasLink pipeline is a big one right now. They're trying to push a pipeline under their pristine drinking water, their water source, Wet'suwet'en. And that those relationships, they have to be authentic. You have to work for those. You have to put in the work to be a good organizer. You have to have personal relationships with the folks who are hit first and worst by the fossil fuel industry. So we provide support. Like, do you need money? We'll find it. Do you need, supplies? We'll get them. Do you need like comms and media support, digital support, helping with wherever and whenever we can. And building true and authentic relationships with folks is the core tenet of organizing, and something that, I think that Stand Up holds very well. And, I wouldn't work here if we did things any different. It's a very important to me, to make sure that these relationships are held in the highest esteem.
Well, it does sound very clear when you say we don't work with them, we work for them. It is, and it's a shift that we need to understand, so we fully understand how these relationships actually can work. Mm-hmm. I loved it. Thank you for the correction, actually. Yeah, and with all of that, I gotta ask. It might gonna sound like a silly question, but I don't think we stress enough how big the challenges are when doing this kind of work. What is that you see most often? What is like the hardest things that you actually fight to get things through, and how do you overcome those obstacles? It's deep.
There's so many challenges that that we face, but as popularity for a just transition to a sustainable future grows, the fossil fuel industry has been like digging in deep, like with their foothold of power and profits. And it's the toughest thing that, we're an organization, an NGO. We don't have even a quarter of the money that the fossil fuel industry does. I mean, this is the most wealthy, most connected, powerful industry on earth, and they will stop at nothing, for profit. And that to me that's the scary part of it, is knowing that like they have more money than us, they have a lot more power than us sometimes. But we face it with dedication, and we face it with knowing that this is absolutely the fight of our lives. We have to save this planet. We have to be able to pass it on to the next 7 generations. And so, yeah, I mean, they're scary. They do a lot of really underhanded stuff. And there's, then there's the culture wars of, left versus right and fact versus fiction. And, it's hard to combat sometimes. Like anybody with a microphone and a camera can, spout their opinions and tell people that, things are one way, and their base believes it, especially, with the hold that white supremacy culture has on this planet, that we have to take that very seriously. And so combating that, the anti-ESG efforts and combating white supremacy are some of the things that we face, but it's not something that we can't do. We do it through education, we do it through partnerships, we do it through relationships, and we do it by staying true to the data and to the facts. And that's something that Stand does so well. We have an entire research department, like shout out to the SRG folks, the numbers and the data they pull, they spend day in and day out, researching things, and we put reports together, and we partner with places to provide people with the numbers and with the data to back up the claims that we come with. And I think when we combat, just the nonsense that comes out of the fossil fuel industry and, people who, are only focused on profit capitalism, then when we come with truth and power, grassroots really prevails. Like there is nothing like people power on this planet. And I truly believe that. I mean, we've stopped so many things in human history by simple grassroots power and organizing, that it can be done. And we know it can be done. So we hold ourselves to that standard of like, we work for the people and with the people, and we do the things that are necessary to save our planet. So lots of challenges, but lots of hope.
Well, absolutely. And I gotta say that it's probably a lot of hands helping, right? It is a collective effort, that is, as you mentioned. And in this point, I need to ask for everybody listening now or watching us on YouTube, what are the best ways to help you guys keep going on this fight?
I mean, support our campaigns, follow us on social media, sign up for our emails, get on our website and explore, and I know that my development department would hate me if I didn't say this. So donate to us. We always need money to be funding these campaigns. That's always a way to help. But I think, for the everyday person who you look at climate change and the climate crisis, and it seems so big and it seems so scary. And you think like, I'm just one little person on this planet. How am I going to make an impact? And making an impact, you can do it from where you are with what you have at any time. You can sign petitions. You can call your local elected officials. You can get involved in a local grassroots group. It doesn't have to be with Stand. I encourage you to find your passion, whether it's in climate justice or economic justice, housing justice. All of these fights are intertwined. So if your passion is abolitionism, go do that, because that's going to save the planet too. That's going to save the people that live here. So I just encourage people, like whatever your passion is, I guarantee you there's 12, 25 local folks who think just like you. And there's little grassroots groups all over this planet organizing. So that's how you can make an impact. You go find the others who think just like you, and you get involved with them, and you start organizing in your local area. That's how we start making an impact, from our local cities to our states, to our counties, countries, and then, to the whole planet. If we collectively all take action, it makes a difference, because the more of us, the better.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more with you. Honestly, absolutely. This is what it's, yeah, right. Like, this is why this podcast is this, right? Like, we're just trying to tell people the many different options they can find to find their passions and fight something to fight for. But if you don't find your place here on Stand, just go check our our episodes list. You're probably gonna find something else. But
we would love to have you.
Yeah, absolutely. But if you want to help Stand, please go to their website. It's pretty easy to donate. It's pretty easy to get in touch with them to get information. Again, stand.earth. It's that simple. Just go there and check it out. A little donation goes a long way, always, right? Absolutely. Amy, thank you so very much for talking to us today. I loved it. I learned a lot.
Excellent. Thank you so much for having me. This was fun.
Well, it was my pleasure. And to everybody listening also, thank you so much for staying here with us for one more episode. And remember, if you liked it, press subscribe on YouTube or in your podcast episode, because that shows the algorithms that this is an important conversation, and then we can spread the word about the importance of the work that stand.earth has been doing. Bye, and I'll see you at the next episode.